special project grant. As you know, we already received the grant to distribute the books to families who are low income. So part of this is that I had to build a logic model. I had to indicate on the logic model, and you can do this right here, that I was going to use a proxy outcome, because what we're trying to accomplish is making sure that people have access to additional words in their home, access to age-appropriate literature. We're not going to be able to measure that outcome, but we are able to base some outcome predictions off of some published data that's already been established to show just having those books in the home is really important. So we're going to track the number of households that receive the books, because that's really that critical point. The other program that we're all really familiar with is WIC, and it has real similar sort of outcome base there, that we're making some presumptions based upon some established materials that have already been published and show that there's benefit for people and babies in utero to receive a certain level of nutrition. So we are able to do that. So again, anytime you use a proxy outcome, it should be really limited, and it should only happen when it's supported by previous research and when it's recognized and accepted as being something that's going to work. So there has to also be that specific eligibility field. So like with WIC, there's a certain demographic that would be eligible for those services. With the program that we are applying for, people have to be 100 or below 125% of the poverty level. So those are things that we would look at. Okay. Now we get to sometimes I think that when we're going to kind of breeze over this and then get on to lunch, because we are so close to that end point right now. I think it's important sometimes to recognize that we like to, make some jumps. And so like with the provision of emergency services, this can be kind of hard. So we've talked about how emergency services usually, we're going to look at outputs like the number of food boxes distributed and that type stuff. But we don't really know what happens as a result of that. And so sometimes we jump to conclusions, and we think that as a result of it, this change has occurred. So we want to make sure that we're not making those assumptions, and that we are basing everything off of published literature that's there. So I know that within our agency, we do provide some tangible assistance in the form of a food bag, in the form of a sleeping bag, but we don't really have a great mechanism for determining what type of a change occurs with that. Like in the case of a sleeping bag, we're not going to say, what was your core thermal temperature last night versus, tomorrow, what is your core thermal temperature as a result of using the sleeping bag that we provided. It's unrealistic. So instead, we just have to make sure that we are, that we're using that data, or that we're following up with people. And follow-up can sometimes be like the F word, like follow-up can be a hard thing, but it's a really critical piece, because it's good to, when we can get that customer feedback in terms of what's happening as a result of the services or strategies that we've employed. So again, we have to just document if we are going to use a proxy outcome, why it's appropriate and why it's not realistic to use a regular outcome there. So we are at the conclusion right now of module 3. So we have, again, sometimes it's not unusual for people to get the money and then come up with a plan, but we propose that there's a much better strategy with that. We need to define our plan before we pursue our money. So management has limitations when we try to fit a plan with the grant, and appropriate management is based on this Roma cycle of assessment, planning, and then implementation. So it's also important for us to be able to document and report the number of services that we provide, and that we provide, and that we're providing individuals and families a number of strategies that they are applying to agency and community level needs. Cool? So let's go to lunch. We are a couple minutes behind right now. I apologize for that. So lunch is...
It's 11:40 now.
Okay. So it's 11:40. So let's still get... No, we're fine. Just be back at 12:10. So we only have a 30-minute lunch break, and I apologize. But yesterday I didn't think we were going to have a lunch break. So, I mean, we're up a little bit. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, here, it's the red button right here.
Oh, there.